to really arrive here. Just take a moment. Allow the awareness, the focus, to just shift from being focused on the world around you to being focused on the world inside you. Take a moment and allow yourself to come to a place of arriving into the spaciousness between the thoughts. Find that space between the thoughts. And allow yourself to be present there. Normally our awareness is on the thoughts themselves. But here you want to actually allow the awareness to unhook from any of the distractions, whether it's thoughts, sounds, smells, sensations. And instead, you want to allow the awareness to blossom in the space between the thoughts. In that expanding spaciousness between the distractions. Find that space and grab that space. Draw the awareness into that spaciousness between the thoughts. Drawing the awareness to the breath as we allow ourselves to be fully present and fully aware. in every breath and every moment. Allow yourself to arrive into that awareness. If you notice a thought or you notice a sensation or a feeling, don't worry about them, but don't allow the awareness to become distracted. Just allow them to exist. They'll pop like little bubbles. In just a moment, they arise and they pop, and arise and pop. Don't allow the attention to be distracted. Keep that awareness on the breath and on that ever-expanding spaciousness between your thoughts, between the distractions. Find that space. Slowly and gently bring the palms of the hands together at chest level in Namaste. And gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Gently open the eyes and lower the hands. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with all of you. Is it more important to love or to be loved? Is it more important to love or to be loved? I think it's definitely more important to love. Because to love is actually our Dharma. It would be like saying, is it okay if a flower never gives fragrance? Is it okay if a river never flows? Is it okay if the sun never rises and shines? Well, okay theoretically. I mean, the sky's not going to fall if a flower doesn't give fragrance. But for that flower, giving fragrance is her Dharma. That's the Dharma of a flower, is to give fragrance. The Dharma of a river is to flow. The Dharma of the sun is to shine. The Dharma of fire is to burn. Well, is it okay if a fire never burns? Well, would it actually be fire if it didn't burn? Our Dharma is to love. Because when we love, we tap into and experience and manifest the very truth of who we are. I don't mean romantic love. I mean, that's certainly one aspect that some people choose to express love in. But I'm talking about love on a much, much broader, bigger, more infinite level. That love that just exudes from you, that's not so directional necessarily. So it's not just, God, I love this piece of paper with my questions on it. But, through looking at this piece of paper with my questions on it, the love within me is catalyzed. My internal love manufacturing plant, you could say, is turned on. And so even though this paper may have been a catalyst for it, it's not just unidirectionally, I love this and that's it. It's that through that paper in this example, or through that person you love, your internal love manufacturing factory gets turned on. And once it's turned on, then it's just exuding love, right? I mean, once you start to love, once you tap into your ability to love, whether it's for a human being with whom you're in a romantic relationship, whether it's for a parent, a grandparent, a child, a friend, an animal, a blade of grass, a tree, a flower, the stars in the sky, the flowing waters of Mother Ganga, the divine universe in general. Whatever first catalyzes the love within you to flow, it's just a catalyst. To love is our nature. It's why children who have healthy attachment, children who are growing psychologically in a healthy way, are like little love bunnies, right? I mean, kids are loving, lovable. They like to be loved. They like to give love. They'll goo-goo, Just today, a couple hours ago, as we landed from Delhi back in Dehradun, met someone we know well who's just had a brand new baby. Baby was a few months old in the cute little stroller. And so I say to his wife, can I pick up the baby? We were all smiling at him and he was smiling back. And I said, can I pick him up? Is he going to cry? She said, no, pick him up. So I picked him up, and of course the baby was happy and beautiful and gave lots of love to me, and it was wonderful. Early this morning, I had a very similar experience with a brand new daughter of another woman I know who I had seen in Delhi. And I mention it because they're two very young, brand new babies. Never met me before. But they're being raised in a way that is not traumatizing them. They're being raised in a way that's a healthy development, even though it's only been a few months. And therefore, they're able to love. And I mention that because for some of us, loving doesn't necessarily come so easy because we weren't necessarily raised in a way that felt so safe, so healthy. So we may not necessarily grow with that ability to just love so openly and freely, but unimpeded, unharmed, human nature is just to love from the moment we're born, basically. Just to give love. It's who we are. So I think it's worse not to give love. Because that would be literally living your life not fulfilling your core Dharma. Like a fire that doesn't burn, or a flower that can't give fragrance, or a river that doesn't flow. Now, not being loved is also obviously a great tragedy. And they're interlinked, because if we were never loved, we may find it very, very difficult to give love. So they're both very important. But I think ultimately, if I had to choose, like the questioner has given a choice, I think I would say it's worse to not give love. Because even if I haven't received love in the right way, you can learn that later on in life. You can develop a spiritual path. You can feel love from God. You can lie in the dirt and feel the love of Mother Earth. You can lie in the ocean and feel the love of creation, of the universe. So even if we've never been given the love that we should have been given, we still have the capacity to feel it when we connect to the divine. But if we never give love, then we literally live our entire lives completely missing the point. Other questions? Questions from anyone here? Yes.
Pranam Sadhviji. So the other day you shared that we have forgotten that who we are. We attach ourselves to the body, and at the same time we perceive others also as body. So what should be our correct attitude in our daily life, so that we do get distracted? We are we are able to really see others and us, that we are one.
Beautiful. इसलिए हम tilak लगाते हैं. The reason we put tilak on here is to remind us. We were talking about this a bit the other night on Shivratri. But these two eyes see separation, objectification. They see object. This eye sees the divine in others, in ourselves. It's the eye that sees truth, or sees what we call content or essence rather than form. So she's asked as a follow-up to what we've been talking about, how to make that happen. How do you do that? Well, you keep coming up with ways to remember. Tools and techniques, right? So one very powerful one is literally to apply the tilak. Because as we apply it, we remember, oh God, I'm going to go into my day. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to see them. They're going to be different sizes and shapes and colors. But rather than focusing on that, oh God, let me use this eye and see the truth. Let me see the divine in them. So we put on the tilak. Then whenever you see yourself in the mirror and you see the tilak, or you put your hand up and you feel it, you remember, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be using this eye. Oh yeah. Another way is to come up with things that you do a lot during the day and connect them to whatever habit you want to begin. So for example, we eat food, we drink water or tea or coffee, right? A lot of us have this habit of we're kind of constantly eating something or drinking something. If you can tie spiritual awareness to every time you're going to eat or drink, it gives you a ready-made reminder many, many times a day. So before you eat, just allow yourself, anchor in, remember, I'm spirit. I'm spirit. I'm soul. There's beautiful mantras that we chant before we eat that say, Brahma Panam, Brahma Havir, Brahma Gano, Brahmanahutam, Brahmevatena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Then we say, Aham Vishwanaro Bhutva, Praninam Dehamashrita, Prana Pana Samayukta, Pachamanam Chaturdavidam. And these mantras remind us that the one I who is eating, the food that is being eaten, the fire in my belly that is going to digest the food, the energy of the food, it is one. It is essentially the divine, taking the divine into the divine. Right? All of this separation, this idea that I'm over here and the food's over there and my hydrochloric acid that's going to digest it all is over here. I mean, as though we were somehow different substances. As though where the food came from, that energy of the soil, of the water, of the farmers who planted it, who tilled the soil, who harvested it. As though the energy of the universe that came into that food were separate from the energy of me who's eating it. As though that were separate from the energy of the divine who has created me and created the field and created the farmer. It's all one. It's the divine, feeding the divine to the divine. So maybe you'll choose to recite the mantras to remind you. Maybe you'll just take 5 seconds and just remember it. It's not that you have to chant the mantra to remember it. Maybe you'll just take a moment and just remember, oh yeah, Oh yeah, I'm one. And then you take it in. And if you can actually just start with this habit, every time you're going to eat, every time you're going to drink water, you're not separate from this water. Right? This water is going to go in me and merge with the water of me that I'm constantly giving back to the universe. I sweat, I speak, it comes out of my mouth, it comes out of my pores. I mean, as we live, we're constantly giving water back into the universe, not just when you go to the bathroom, but constantly. We're in this constant exchange of water with the universe. So you take it in, you remember, oh yeah, we're one. I'm drinking myself into myself. Only later to, simultaneously to share myself back with myself. Right? So just look for ways, and I find eating and drinking is the easiest because we always eat and drink. And so any habit you want, meditation, slowing down, gratitude, chanting of your mantra, whatever you're trying to inculcate in your life that you do in the morning, you do in the evening, and when you sit in the evening you realize you forgot all day long. Well, if you can tie it to every time you're going to eat or every time you're going to drink, then you've got all these reminders. And then once you've got that down, tie it into other things. Every time you open your email inbox, right? Every time your phone rings before you answer it, take a moment. There's no rule that you have to answer on the second ring. Right? If they hang up before you get it, you'll call them back. It's not like the days of the old phones that would ring and you had no idea who was calling. Tie it into the phone ringing, tie it into checking your email, whatever it may be. But choose things that you do a lot and use them as reminders to drop deep. A phone ringing can be the greatest distraction. But if I tie in just a moment of reconnection, remembrance, this is me calling me, before you answer it, then that distraction actually becomes a reminder. Not to mention that you'll probably be nicer to whoever calls. Okay? So just keep tying it into the life you live and keep remembering. And seeing it in other people, seeing the divine in others, I mean, it's such a great practice. You see others all day long. Go to the grocery store. Walk down the street. Instead of thinking fat, thin, old, young, fair, dark, male, female, can you just start to see, what a beautiful form of the divine. Right? It's like that beautiful poem by Namdevji, right? About the dog stealing the chapati. I forget the poem in Hindi. It's a beautiful poem about the dog coming, stealing a chapati. And he runs after the dog. And it works much better in Hindi. I just can't remember it. But it's a poem by this beautiful mystic who says, the dog comes, the dog steals a chapati, runs away. And this mystic runs after him with a bowl of ghee, saying, don't eat a dry chapati. Let me put some ghee on the chapati because, wow, what an amazing form God has come to me in today. Now, most of us would see a dog who stole our chapati and ran away as a pest, as an annoyance. But ultimately, the teaching, as given to us in this beautiful poem, is can you even see a dog who stole your chapati as the divine? And I just love this image of him running after the dog with the, katordi of ghee saying, please, please take some ghee with the chapati. Because look how God has come to me today. So this is the bhav we want to cultivate. Whatever it is, whatever happens, can you just see whoever it may be, a human, a dog, as that form of the divine? Beautiful. Yes. Other questions? Yes.
Why India? Why does it have such a power to... Why India? Why does it have such a power to draw people, to draw you, to draw us, to draw many international people?
Why India? I think there's a lot of reasons. And I think it's impossible to put a beginning on it. The spiritual religious culture here that we refer to as Hinduism is actually called Sanatan Dharma. I won't go into all the history of it, but the word Hindu was actually a word given by non-Hindus to the people who lived on the banks of the Sindhu River in what we call the Indus Valley civilization. And they couldn't say S of Sindhu, so they said Hindu, meaning the people who live on the banks of the Sindhu River. Now I mention this because to Hindus, their tradition is actually called Sanatan Dharma. Dharma is Dharma. Sanatan means eternal. No beginning, no end. It's always existed. And so it's impossible to put a beginning and to say, well, is it the actual land? Is it the actual soil? Or is it the people who have come and have inhabited the land and the soil? In a physically smaller way, it's like saying, why Rishikesh? What makes Rishikesh so powerful? Is it the actual energy land, or is it the thousands of years of saints and sages meditating and attaining enlightenment? Well, it's both. Because there was something in the land that drew them anyway. There's a reason this is the land that Ganga flowed down. And there is an incredibly heightened, powerful spiritual energy by the presence of Mother Ganga. And then by the presence of the sages and the saints and the rishis who came and have meditated. And in the same way with India as a larger example, I think there's something very powerful in the land itself. I think there is a reason that India has always been so rich in natural resources. I mean, this is what led all of the invaders who came didn't come because they were looking for Dharma. They didn't come because they were, on a search for peace that led them thousands of miles on, horseback from their kingdom in the days long before any other form of transportation. They were looking for money, wealth, jewels, gems, gold, natural resources. So whether you look at that which other people say is wealth, because it's gems, or whether it's what we would call wealth, which is spiritual energy, I think the very land itself, the very soil itself, is very powerful and very rich on all of those levels. But then you have something in which, on this sacred, rich land, we have had the footsteps of, the life of Bhagwan Ram, Bhagwan Krishna. We've had these divine beings come onto this earth, fill this very physical landscape with their presence, with their teachings, with the impact of their lives. And then you have an entire culture dedicated to continuing to hear about, to sing the glories of, to tell the stories of, to learn, to emulate, to pray. That they too can embody these divine tenets. So you've got billions and billions of people. If you look at the history of India, however many people to date have actually lived here, and who have lived in a culture that is rooted in honoring, celebrating, embodying, becoming these divine beings. Because I think there's something very special about the spiritual culture here, which is not only worship God, but realize that you are God. So the teaching is not just let us pray to a being who inhabited this planet thousands of years ago. But let us realize that that being is still here, number one, and number two, that that being is not separate from me. That I am an embodiment of that divine. And so you've got a culture that for thousands and thousands and thousands of years has cultivated populations and civilizations of people spending their lives to realize the divine truth of themselves. So it's not just religiosity, it's not just praying to God, but it's actually a personal realization of the presence of God within. And so I think that when you add all of that together, what you've got is this incredible energy that's inherent in the land, inherent in the soil and the water and the air. And you've got thousands of years of powerful history of this very land being walked by so many awakened beings, by so many enlightened masters who are sharing and teaching and spreading and inspiring, and so many seekers who are listening and learning and thriving. And so it becomes a very powerful, energetic vortex for transformation. On all of those levels. And I think it draws people like you all from all over the world who are pulled to that. It's like you walk through an airport, okay? Now, let's say you've just eaten. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever meal it may be. This used to be only everywhere in America. I've now started noticing it in India as well. You walk through an airport. Suddenly, even you're not hungry at all. You've just eaten. And suddenly there's this smell of hot, buttery popcorn. Right? And you look over and there's some stall selling hot, buttery popcorn. And suddenly, no matter how full you are, no matter whether you like popcorn, don't like popcorn, suddenly there's this sense of pulling you toward thinking, I should have some popcorn. Because that smell is so overpowering that it draws you to it. And I think in a way, India's got that type of power that even if you didn't think you were on a spiritual path, like I came without even thinking I was on a spiritual path, nonetheless, the power is so strong that it just grabs you. And it pulls you. And it fills you with something much more lasting, much more real, much more nourishing than hot buttery popcorn. But I think it's that degree of unmistakable, almost unrefusable energetic pull, whether you were looking for it or not. And if you were looking for it, then even more so. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
Namaste, Sadhviji.
Namaste.
My question is, effects of our life, mean birth to death, is due to theory of karmas? Kindly you explain it. I wish to know about our karmas, theory of karmas. Thank you.
Sure. So, according to our spiritual wisdom, we believe that everything happens for a reason, that things are not random, that there's a reason, there is cause and effect, there is continuity amongst things. And one way that manifests is in our own lives. There's one way of looking at the universe in which it's all random, nothing makes sense. One child is born to a starving mother on the street, born into homelessness. Another child is born 50 yards away in a mansion. Where's the rhyme or reason? If we're all equal in the eyes of God, which I deeply believe we are, where's the reason for this? What system of creation could a divine, by any religion, possibly create in which there's that level of inequality? And the way that we understand that has to do with karma. Now, it is not a system of rewards and punishments. So it is not, the child on the street is being punished because he was bad, and the one in the mansion is being rewarded because he was good. It's not that. It has nothing to do with rewards and punishments. It simply has to do with results of actions and, even more importantly almost, the ultimate goal being our own awakening. What you call God realization or self-realization or moksha, enlightenment, nirvana, whatever word we use. The ultimate goal, if you could say God has a goal, or the universe, the divine universe has a goal, what is that goal? The goal is that we should attain that state. that we should realize the divine truth of ourselves. That's what yoga is a pathway toward. Yoga means union. If you look at the 8 limbs of yoga that the sage Patanjali gave, we won't go into them, but they end at samadhi. They begin with yam and niyam. They go through all of the limbs, ending in samadhi, ultimate goal of yoga, oneness, self-realization, God-realization, moksha, samadhi. Different words, one idea, oneness. So karma comes into play because that which we receive for 2 reasons. 1, it is a result of actions of the past. But 2, it is that situation which is going to give us the most conducive environment to take our next step closer to our own realization. So it's not the one born in poverty is being punished. It's in past lives, due to all of those actions, the fruits of those actions are manifesting in such a way that the lessons, the experiences that this Jeev Atma, individual soul, needs to go through in this karmic incarnation, it's going to be most conducive to go through those in a situation in which there is this type of struggle. Another one, not that he or she is being rewarded, but that due to the fruits of past actions, the lessons, the experiences that this Jivatma needs are going to be found in a situation in which they come into the world with material comfort. Karma literally just means action. Now, the fruits of that action come in essentially 3 main ways. What we call prarabdha karma, sanchit karma, kriyaman karma, right? We talk about the different types of karma. What you can call, a sort of, Pujya Swamiji says, a long-term FDR, short-term FDR. In the West, we talk about CDs, certificates of deposit. When you put money in the bank, some of it matures in 5 years, some of it is in 10 years. You make, a long-term fixed deposit in the bank, comes to maturity, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 10 years. In this case, it's sometimes in this lifetime, sometimes in another lifetime. So that's the really general basis of how it works. But what's most important to remember is that we are not victims of the past. Usually when we think about karma, we focus only on the past. What have I done due to which I am currently in this situation? What have I done that is going to create my situation tomorrow or next year or next life? We forget that we're actually creating karmic fruit right now. It's not just things of the past. It's now. That which we do now is the karma that's going to give us fruit tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next life. I always say, today is the pre of that which is predestined for you tomorrow. It's not predestined as in thousands of years ago, sitting on some cloud somewhere, it got written. Right now is the pre. As I take this water and pour a little bit on my clothes, I have just predetermined that I'm going to sit here wet. You watched it happen, right before your eyes. The pre and the destiny. The karma that I did, the action that I did of pouring the water on myself, was the moment of pre of the fact that I now clearly was predestined to be sitting here wet because here I am wet. The choices we make right here, right now, are determining our destiny for the future. Yes, there's an impact of the past, but there's an impact of the present. My favorite way of thinking about and describing this is if you say, well, take every single action you've done in every past life, all of your past karma, and let's say that the sum total of your long-term, your short-term, your immediate karma, the sum total of all of that is that right here, right now, you have a cow, a literal cow, okay? Now, you can't exchange it. You can't rewind life and go back and do things differently because you really wanted a puppy dog or a kitty instead. You're stuck with the cow. But the cow gives milk, and if we drink that milk, assuming that our cow is treated like a happy member of the family and given organic feed and loved and cared for and never harmed, well, that milk is going to nourish you. It's going to nurture you. You'll be healthy and strong. A cow also gives manure. If you put that manure in your field, it's a fantastic organic fertilizer. Your crops will be great. You'll have a good harvest. But if you eat the manure and dump the milk in your field, you will get sick and your crops will die. Not because thousands of years ago somebody predestined that you were going to have a bad harvest or really bad diarrhea and be really sick, but because your very actions actually led to that outcome. And that's why we look for gurus. It's why we look for mentors. It's why we look for people who can teach us and inspire us. Because in life sometimes we don't know what to do. I mean, you take the example of the cow. Let's say you've never seen a cow before. You have no idea what milk is. You have no idea what manure is. You have no idea what urine is. Suddenly you've got this white stuff and this yellow stuff and this brown stuff. And you don't know what to do. And so you look around. Who's healthy? Who's got good fields? And you say to them, I got this thing here and it gives me this white stuff and this brown stuff and can you help me? And that's why we look for guidance. It's why we get blessings. It's why we turn to spiritual wisdom, to scriptures, to beings of wisdom. so that we can learn what to do. So we can learn how to make actions, karma, that actually will manifest in fruit that we want in our lives. So that's the fundamentals of how it works. And the core takeaway for me is, because for me everything is always about, okay, well, what does that mean for me now? Like, interesting philosophy, interesting theory, thank you, but what does it mean for me? And for me, the takeaway is, number one, whatever's happening is happening for a reason. If it's happening today, there is something from the past that planted those seeds. If you've got an apple tree today, you can be pretty sure that you planted an apple seed at some point in the past, or allowed someone else to plant an apple seed in your garden. So if it's happening for a reason. And number two, you have the power. If you want to create a different type of garden, you have the power to plant different seeds. And three, to realize that every situation you are in, painful, pleasant, whatever you may be in, not only is it due to the past, but it's also the most conducive situation for you right now to learn to take that next step on your spiritual path. That your Jivatma has chosen this path, this karmic incarnation, for the lessons and the experiences it's being given. So have the experience. Learn the lesson. It's been chosen. And if you want to move into something different, well, you've got to move through where you are. You can't go around it. And so we take every moment and every situation as an experience to learn from, to grow in, to get closer to God in. Beautiful. Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your evenings. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us online. I'm now, by God's grace, here and not traveling, so we will hopefully not have any other temporary interruptions to our satsang schedule. And I look so forward to being with you all tomorrow. And so much love to you.